especially.
and just back for Cheyenne, it's just, if you're doing education, it's actually going to be really important. There are some health issues too, as we're finding out in California when our air being 2.5 hours from fires and it's too smoky to go outside. So in addition to COVID, people who have lung problems are having all kinds of other issues because of what the air is from just fires had been burning for weeks and weeks. So
But we're
Probably
working on that problem in terms of catastrophic wildfire prevention. I actually wrote to the UN yesterday about seizing the opportunity because, they have the International Day of Disaster Risk Reduction, but because it's so broad, it includes everything from volcanoes to earthquakes to, everything under the sun, really, that it's a little broad. So what we've done is, and there's only a North American wildfire prevention day, there's not a global one. And the North American one's basically when fire season's already upon you and it's almost too late to get as much done. So rather than that, we're saying, what if we, reuse that? Anyways, it's a coalition building for systems change in that regard day. But I definitely agree that now that this summer New York issued a health warning that California wildfire smoke was one of the largest health risks to New York City's population, we're suddenly in a world in which these risks have overflowed their containers, and we need to be able to adjust collectively to the new context, I think.
And how do you think we'll do that, Bobby?
Well, I think that there's, just as was alluded to earlier in terms of relative cost efficiency for addressing climate change and drawdown example as comparison, you could look at each intervention as we are that prevents wildfire. We think that globally, the cost of risk transfer versus risk prevention does not get estimated, i.e. Reinsurance and retrocessionaires will transfer, for example, in America, 70% of death is life insurance securitized, but none of it with regards to how preventable the death is it securitized. In other words, if you could let them live longer, that's not factored in to the preventability of the risk is not factored into the world risk transfer market system. So if we were to say, is it more efficient to connect these risks, right? We've identified, for example, the wildfire risk. There are 200 separate risks that are sold off in the world risk transfer market system, like life insurance risk, pet insurance risk, car insurance risk, cat insurance, the catastrophe bonds, the property yield, property insurance, crop futures. Each of these are different risk fractals connected to the same wildfire. So we think if there was actually a sensible model where you said all of the connected risks are cheaper to prevent the catastrophe than to securitize and re-securitize and re-securitize all of these risks, and create this strange chain reaction where people pay for tragedy, but that's just to address risk coverage, not catastrophe prevention. We think flooding is preventable in part, as has been determined in Japan, and earthquakes don't kill as many people in Japan, and resilience is quantifiable, and the discount rate of people that you love being alive or not does not cause their relevance to disappear into insignificance just beyond the time horizon of intervention cost benefit analysis. So we do think there's a way to get transformatively better at these things.
So I think what you're saying, Bobby, is that the money, instead of being spent on solving issues that are already happening, let's put the money into prevention.
Yeah, I'm saying that if you take 5 cents or 10 cents on the dollar out of the cost of the catastrophe and invest that in preventing the catastrophe, if you can reduce the risk of catastrophe by 25% or 50%, then we should be doing that on flooding. We should be doing that on catastrophic wildfire. We should be doing that in every domain.
I totally agree.
Seems to have done that a bit has been Japan on flooding and earthquakes, but otherwise the world has gotten minimally upgraded with regards to catastrophic risks rather than massively upgraded.
Clearing out scrubwood is one example. Clearing out scrubwood is one example.
Yeah. So, Paul, for this forum, I think the whole philosophy and principle of this forum is what can we do to invest in prevention? So we're talking about climate action, but not really climate action to solve a problem that's we're in the midst of. What can this is the decisive decade. What can we actually do to solve the problem that will happen in 2050? How can we prevent it from happening? What are the things we can do? Everything that this forum is talking about, as I understand it, is in the prevention stakes.